Did you know that every 39 seconds, a cyber attack occurs somewhere in the world? A staggering reality indeed. The world of cybercrime is a ruthless one with no targets off limits. From individuals to small businesses to multinational corporations, anyone can fall prey to these digital predators. The impact of these attacks is far-reaching, causing not just financial loss, but also severe breaches of data. In the year 2023, cybercrimes cost the world an estimated $6 trillion. That's more than the GDP of most countries. And the data breaches? They exposed over 36 billion records. The digital universe is a double-edged sword. It has brought us closer, made our lives easier, but it has also opened up a Pandora's box of threats. With our increasing reliance on digital platforms, these numbers are only expected to rise. We're living in an era where a single click can lead to a catastrophe. Cyber attacks are not a new phenomenon. They have been around since the dawn of the digital age. Rewind to 1988, the year of the first recorded cyber attack, brought about by none other than a Cornell University graduate student, Robert Tappan Morris. This attack, known as the Morris worm, was an experiment gone awry, intended to measure the size of the internet. However, due to a coding error, this worm replicated excessively, causing machines to slow down and eventually crash. It's estimated that it infected around 6,000 computers, a significant number considering the internet's limited reach at that time. As we moved into the 90s, the nature of cyber attacks began to shift. The targets were no longer just computers, they were institutions. Two striking examples come to mind: the attacks on NASA and the Pentagon. In 1994, a group of hackers known as Millworm exploited a flaw in NASA's computers and disrupted their communications for over 21 hours. This attack was a wake-up call, demonstrating that even the most secure systems could be compromised. Then, in 1998, the Pentagon fell victim to an attack orchestrated by a high school student who went by the alias C0MRAID. This was an eye-opener, as it showed that anyone with enough determination and knowledge could pose a significant threat to national security. It's important to note that during this era, these attacks were mainly performed by individuals or small groups. They were more about proving a point than causing extensive damage. The hackers were often motivated by curiosity, the thrill of breaking into secure systems, or simply wanting to expose vulnerabilities. However, as we moved towards the new millennium, the landscape of cyber attacks began to change dramatically. With the advancement of technology, the complexity of these attacks increased, as did their severity and potential for damage. The perpetrators were no longer just hobbyist hackers. They were organized groups with malicious intent. As technology progressed, so did the complexity and severity of these attacks. With the new millennium came a new era of cyber attacks. The dawn of the 2000s saw the emergence of some of the most notorious cyber threats in history, each one more sophisticated than the last. The infamous I Love You virus, for instance, wreaked havoc in the year 2000. This destructive malware spread via email, masquerading as a love letter. It was a clever trick that fooled millions, leading to estimated damages of over $15 billion worldwide. Following closely on its heels was the Slammer worm, which struck in 2003. Unlike its predecessors, Slammer was not out for monetary gain. Its purpose was pure chaos. The worm replicated itself at unprecedented speeds, nearly crippling the entire internet within 15 minutes of its release. But these were not isolated incidents. They signaled a shift in the world of cybercrime. Attacks began to grow more organized, more strategic. They were no longer the work of lone hackers tinkering in their basements. Instead, they were the calculated efforts of organized cybercrime syndicates and, in some cases, even state-sponsored entities. The motivation behind these attacks also evolved. While some were still intent on causing havoc, others were financially motivated. Cybercriminals began to realize the immense value of digital data, and they were willing to go to great lengths to get their hands on it. This was the birth of cyber espionage, a form of attack where hackers infiltrate networks to steal sensitive information. It marked the beginning of a new era, an era where cyber attacks could potentially influence the geopolitical landscape. Suddenly, the stakes were higher than ever. Personal computers, corporate networks, even entire nations, nothing was safe from the reach of these cyber criminals, and the world was not prepared. Cybersecurity was still in its infancy, struggling to keep up with the rapidly evolving threat landscape. This left many vulnerable to attack, resulting in significant financial and data losses. The era of organized cybercrime had begun, and the world was not prepared. In the present day, cyber attacks have become a part of our everyday lives. The past decade has seen some of the most significant and devastating cyber attacks in history, marking a worrying shift towards attacks on personal data and the rise of ransomware. Consider the WannaCry ransomware attack in 2017. It was an unprecedented event, affecting over 200,000 computers across 150 countries in the span of just a few days. The impact was catastrophic, crippling hospitals, businesses, and government agencies, and causing billions of dollars in damages. It was a wake-up call, a stark reminder of our vulnerability in the digital age. Then there was the Equifax data breach, also in 2017. In this case, cybercriminals gained access to the personal information of nearly 150 million people, including social security numbers and driver's license numbers. It was one of the largest and most damaging data breaches of all time, leaving millions of people at risk of identity theft and financial fraud. These attacks highlight a disturbing trend. Cybercriminals are no longer just targeting businesses and government agencies, they're going after everyday people. They're stealing our personal information, holding our digital lives ransom, and leaving us to pick up the pieces. And it's not just the big, headline-grabbing attacks we need to worry about. Every day, countless smaller attacks go unnoticed by the media, but their impact is just as real. They disrupt lives, destroy livelihoods, and erode our trust in the digital world. The age of ransomware and data breaches is here, and it's more dangerous than anything we've seen before. Cybercriminals are becoming more sophisticated, their attacks more targeted, their damage more widespread. In the face of this threat, we must be more vigilant than ever. In the age of ransomware and data breaches, no one is safe. With the increasing frequency and severity of cyber attacks, cybersecurity is no longer optional. It's a necessity in today's interconnected world. From the shocking reality of cyber attacks to the evolution of these threats, we've journeyed through the decades, witnessing the rise of organized cybercrimes and the new age of ransomware and data breaches. As we've seen, cyber threats are not only growing in number, but also in sophistication. That's why it's crucial for all of us, individuals and organizations alike, to take proactive steps in securing our digital landscape. Regular software updates, strong, unique passwords, secure networks, these are just a few of the measures we can take to fortify our cyber defenses. But remember, cybersecurity isn't just about safeguarding data, it's about preserving our identity, our privacy, and indeed our very way of life. In the digital age, cybersecurity is not just about protecting your data. It's about protecting your identity, your privacy, and your very way of life.